The April 16th, 2025 meeting of the Jackson County Library District Board is called to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Director Brown?
Here.
Director Keeper? Here. Director Keating?
Here.
Director Shepherd?
Here.
Director Tracy? That's okay.
Thank you. Please join me in thought as I read the JCLS land acknowledgement. Jackson County Library Services acknowledges that its libraries are located within the traditional lands of the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians and the Modoc Nation, as well as the Shasta, Takelma, and Latgawa people, whose descendants are now identified as members of the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians and the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. We take this moment to recognize the indigenous peoples whose traditional lands are where residents of Jackson County live today. JCLS is committed to fostering understanding, deep respect, and honor for indigenous people, and we encourage you to learn more about the land you reside on. For more information, go to jcls.org/land. Carrie, do you have any introductions?
No.
I guess, was Erin introduced? I don't remember if she was at the last. I don't think she was at the last meeting.
No.
Yeah, so Erin, I don't know. Agni is filling in for Yoli Dias, who is on leave at this time. So we appreciate her filling in and being willing to help make things run smoothly both here and in helping manage my calendar.
Yes, and thank you, Erin. You've done a great job selling in.
Thank you.
Appreciate the prompt communication. And we do not have any proclamations today. Are there any requests for additions or realignment of agenda items? Okay. Okay, next item is the consent agenda. The only item on there are the minutes from the March board meeting. Were there any concerns or corrections with the minutes? Okay, not a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Okay. A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And we did not have any requests from the public or the audience to speak. Is there? Okay. I'm guessing Marissa must have just been voting. Okay. Is there anybody in the virtual audience that wish to speak? Okay. It's like not. To reports, and the library director's report is the next item. Carrie.
So, as always, I'd like to highlight a couple of things in our director's report this month. One of the signs of spring that we have going on at the library is the seed exchange libraries at some of our branches. Our Rouge library did a robust exchange of about 400 seed packets to over 100 patrons, and Shady Cove has been in operation a few years longer, almost 4,000 seed packets there, which is wonderful. And I also know that there is generally a audience here on the first, I believe it's Saturday of the month, Saturday or Sunday of the month, for the seed exchange here at the Medford Library as well. So it's really great to see that contribution back to our natural environment here through the library. We've been building some wonderful partnerships. Ashland mentioned a couple different ways that they partner with local organizations in their programs. In talent, we have partnered with Age Plus to do a computer class for seniors, and they are graduating this week, the first set of 6 individuals who participated in that program. There are also a couple of ways that we have demonstrated the library as a welcoming and inclusive place for all of our community, with the White City branch patron talking about her son with autism who is introduced to books that are feature neurodivergent characters, and she was just so excited to have information and tools that will help her son see himself reflected in the books he can see at the library. And also the Ukrainian program at the Road River Library, which was conducted and led by our library assistant Natalia, who is also Ukrainian. So great to see those kinds of gatherings happening at the library. And we can go more into this later under advocacy committee report, but Marta and I did attend both the Medford City Council meeting and the Ashland City Council meeting over this past month. And then Vicki and I attended the Eagle Point meeting. So those have been fun to go to and well received. We're working on scheduling both the Central Point and Gold Hill for upcoming meetings. And then we might take a little bit of a break to go through budget season and all of that before we pick up again in the fall. I do also just want to update on the status of our state library with the IMLS funding. I did receive a communication from our state librarian, Wendy Cornelison, that they have received a check to cover the state grants to libraries, which will fund their staff in the department through the end of the current fiscal, I believe, federal fiscal year. So they still have not received the check for the LSTA grants, which would be the sub grants that go out to libraries. But the good news is that we do have funding at the state level for the databases and the other items that have been identified, nationwide as one of the areas that there may be concerns. So I just wanted to have a little good news that we do have that state funding for library services from the federal government.
Any word about the LSTA grant?
I have not heard anything, no. It just that it hadn't been received yet as of last Monday.
Is that supposedly frozen, or is that, are we expecting it to actually?
It's still an unknown at this point. We don't know if it's been frozen. We just know it hasn't been received yet. And I haven't talked to her about what their normal timing is, but
The federal fiscal year would be October,
correct,
right? So beyond October.
correct,
Uncertain.
correct. Oh, I'm sorry, I did one other thing. In the director's report, you saw that the Phoenix Pollinator Garden Project, we had an invitation to bid that resulted in a non-award of contract. And both bids came in over budget, and we just didn't see a way to try to make either one of those work in the current situation. And so we will be pushing that project out until next winter, because as we get into the busy landscaping season and working with people who would plant gardens, it's not a good time to try to recruit one while they're busy working. So we'll be posting advertising in December and posting again next January. There may be sub parts of that project that we can work on before then and start to make some progress towards the garden there.
Are we gonna adjust the project at all, since it could generate bids that were?
So part of what we're looking at in terms of taking some pieces and doing them early would be to focus the garden project to the garden and remove some of the elements that were more work that would be done by a subcontractor. So yes.
More kind of construction
Right.
pieces.
Any questions or comments about anything presented in the report?
I have a question. With Road River Library, did they plan the program for focus on Ukrainian folks because they had noticed a significant number of patrons?
So I know that there was a program at a different branch a couple months earlier. And so I think they were based on the success of having an earlier program. And I think there's been general curiosity and interest around the county because we have had so many Ukrainian refugees in Jackson County. And so, I don't know specifically to that branch if they had demand, but I know that they had interest when they planned it.
Yeah, especially great that they have
There is that.
a training staff member.
There's that Rushmore Baptist Church up there. It's-
Oh, that's true.
It's right along the freeway. There might be a significant training group up there. I don't know that.
Yeah.
For some reason, that church is.
Yes.
I just have one other comment, again, a shout out to Regina. I thought it was really interesting to see that she had recorded a step-by-step document for allowing people to understand how she compiles the key performance indicators. So since having those kind of procedures and something kind of spelled out so people understand how it's done are super valuable. It's one of those positions, I think, for us that have been on board for a little while, that you didn't know how valuable it was until we had it. And I think a lot of that credit goes to her for doing such an incredibly good job in that position. So grateful for that. And just one other comment, the same online conference that Carrie attended on the Friends and Foundation into the future, I also attended and found it valuable and have shared that with the president's former friends, so it's worthwhile, good stuff. Okay. Thank you. On to unfinished business, we have two policies, volunteer policy and the public use of library grounds. Are we gonna talk about these one at a time or, okay. So volunteer policy looks like,
Yes, because I approved Friend's vacation before I realized it was a board meeting day. So I told her, don't change your plans, we can handle this. The policy committee did meet and discuss the proposed edits that were suggested at the last board meeting. And so the policy you have before you today is cleaned up with those revisions incorporated.
Have you read it? Look good to me.
Oh, we're gonna take the word diverse and kind of massage it a little bit.
We looked at different options and determined that that really is the most accurate word to describe what we're trying to describe in that sentence.
It's not even used in the DEI context. It's just a fine word to describe a variety of people.
so where exactly are,
In the section 2, introduction, the volunteer program exists to create a strong link to communities by engaging a diverse group of citizens to provide support for library programs and services.
I tend to think you're wrong there because diverse really is the opposite of what is held in the first paragraph of section 3. And that's really the same argument as we made last time. How can it be diverse if it doesn't regard age, race, creed, color, national origin, religion, marital status, sexual orientation, or etc.?
Well, section 3 says that we select volunteers without regard to any of those qualifications. But
Over engagement,
diverse might, well, maybe we're looking for blonde people today or
physical appearance. I'm serious. I know it sounds nitpicky, but I'm serious.
It is nitpicky.
We're actually directly contradicting what it says. We're trying to recruit people without regard to any of these characteristics, and yet we're saying we want people with diverse characteristics.
With diverse characteristics. You don't want everybody that looks exactly the same being your volunteer.
So if we removed diverse group, just said citizens, what difference would it make?
I wouldn't vote for doing that.
But I might explain what difference it would make.
The difference it would make is that it is a goal. And I think it's a fine goal to have a diverse group of people, even if we don't base our hiring or selection of volunteers based on particular criteria.
Just doesn't make logical sense.
I guess I could comment more from an observer role in the online library that I use. I mean, we've got older folks, senior citizens that volunteer there. We have young people that volunteer there. We have people with disabilities that volunteer there, physical disabilities. And I mean, it does represent diversity. I don't know that, I mean, I think one, that volunteering is, we are welcoming to anybody, regardless of what your differences might be from some other person, and the fact that they do represent different sections of the population is an asset to the library. Certainly having young people in the library doing work is, I think, an attractive thing to younger people, and I think people that.
Then we would be recruiting for younger people in regards to age.
Well,
That doesn't mean we recruit them, but when they apply, it's a good thing.
yeah, I mean, I don't know that engaging
So,
is
I think-
recruiting.
Maybe another way to think about this
Just
is
seeing it as
in,
hypocritical, I'm not trying to.
in our recruitment efforts, we do not recruit specifically for age, gender, race, creed, color, national origin. But our strategy and philosophy in the staff that we have is that it's reflective of the community we serve. So from an EEOC standpoint, for equal opportunity employment, we don't hire based on the criteria listed. It doesn't mean that it's not a part of who we hire. And we do have both a hiring practice and a volunteer hiring practice of aiming for a workforce that is reflective of the community we serve. So the result is a diverse workforce that represents the diversity of the communities we serve. And so I think that's where the recruitment of it is without regard to those things, because we can't say we're hiring only these people who fit into this classification.
No, but you're aiming to get a certain mix.
No.
That's what was said.
Yeah,
You're aiming to have a mix.
Not
that-
a certain mix, but
a certain
a
mix
mix.
that matches the diversity of the community that we're in.
Correct.
There's nothing wrong with it.
It's hypocritical.
It is not.
It's directly it's illogical to say one thing and the other at the same time.
I guess you're entitled to your opinion.
Exactly. I mean, it's meaningless to say that stuff and still at the same point say you're aiming for a certain mix.
Why?
Because to get to that mix, you have to pick and choose.
I am picking, my criteria for selecting the best candidate for the position is based on the qualifications for that position. We have
Regardless
we
of-
have minimum qualifications for each position. And so we have a pool of candidates that meet those minimum qualifications. And within that pool, the most qualified candidate may be 18, they may be 55, they may be whatever. But we are not hiring them because of those personal identifiable characteristics. We are hiring them because of their qualifications for the position. And that is a standard HR practice.
And with volunteers, it might be a matter of, are you available to work on Wednesday? Because we need
Right.
somebody to show
So
up
it's
on Wednesday.
completely up to chance whether or not we get a diverse group of citizens, isn't it? That's my point. All right. I'm fine.
Was the recommendation from the policy committee to recommend approval of this policy?
Make a motion in that direction.
I move
Yes.
approval.
I will second. I think that's permissible for me to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the volunteer policy as presented in your packet today. Any additional questions, discussion? Okay. Not all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, this is an aye. Opposed?
I'll go ahead and vote.
We have three ayes and one opposed, just repeating for Aaron's benefit. I'm trying to be a little bit helpful if I can. Okay, public use of library grounds. This is a longer, more involved policy, and Sharon is with us to talk about that. Turn the mic.
So like the volunteer policy, the public use of library grounds was also presented to the policy committee and was, changes were made and reflected in the cleaned version.
I should move approval so that we have our discussion of the motion to approve.
Okay,
So I'll move approval of the use of library spaces. Yes.
I can second that.
okay,
Thanks.
thanks, Marissa. Okay, now any questions, discussion? Maybe the committee can comment. I know there were some particular details we talked about at the last meeting that
Well, under background and additional
Rest of-
information in the memo, it sort of describes what the comments were from the last meeting. And then we dealt with some of those at the committee meeting. It was mostly wordsmithing, I think.
Yeah, I didn't have any comments. It looked like everything was fixed. I like the revisions, so.
And
good. Okay, so no other questions for Joe? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the public use of library grounds as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
So, okay, so unanimous support for approving that. Thank you, Joan. Thank you, committee. Okay, so you ended up with 2 items on the agenda because Brent's on vacation.
Aren't I so lucky?
Okay, so we're on to personnel fiscal year 2026 COLA.
So we presented in the background and additional information, the methodology that we use to determine COLA. And the chart on page 21 shows you the summary of the comparative systems that led to our recommendation of a 3% COLA for fiscal year 26. As noted in the resource requirements, this would be incorporated into the fiscal year 26 budget for an estimated total cost increase of $340,000.
I'll second. So any questions for, I guess, Carrie at this point is
right. Who again, I think the last time we talked about this, we couldn't give out the specific local governments that were serving.
Correct. We're all using comparing numbers against each other, and then at this time, we're not aware of who has finalized or not finalized, and so that's why we're not able to list the specific cities in the summary for you.
Can we find out the ones we used last?
Maybe.
Um,
And so we're using local
in order to
communities.
determine which, if it makes sense that we're using people from Portland, for instance.
We're using,
Curious to know.
we're using, the comparables are in the Southern Oregon region. So they are I think we actually explained that in the comps, so that at the bottom of page 20.
Yeah.
The library systems that are similar in size, structure, and serve communities with comparable demographics, and then also other special districts within the state of Oregon and local government organizations. So in general, when you're looking at comps for things like COLA, it's people who may pull your labor pool away from you. So it would be either a similar market such as the library industry, or people who want to stay living in Southern Oregon but can get a higher paying job at a comparable local government system.
Is there a reason why we need to do this now rather than putting it in as part of the budget process?
Because it's really hard for us to build a budget without knowing what the cost of living is. Well, I mean, it's
But we don't know what the
large-
salaries increase will be doing, or the steps for that matter.
Correct.
So, I mean, it wouldn't matter if we just added this to that mix, right? I'd kind of be in favor of saying, seeing all three of those legs of the stool before voting on them piecemeal.
Didn't we get the step increase proposal at the same time as the COLA last year?
We did not.
Those came from the budget process.
The direction I believe I received last year was that the board wanted to approve the COLA prior to the budget.
I would prefer to do it in the budget process. I don't know how you guys feel, but what do you think about that? There's no.
Well, I mean, hell to the hell together. You know what your salary hit is gonna be all months.
Oh, sorry, can I ask, so is this in addition to like a step increase? So are there already like yearly step increases and a COLA?
Yes, the total
Yes.
compensation philosophy includes both a COLA and a step increase. The COLA is based on industry adjustments to keep our wages competitive with regard to local industry and inflation, whereas the step increases would be for longevity.
And what's the percentage on the step increase?
We have not proposed that yet. That will be included in the budget process.
Well, one
Then typically,
one step is 1.5%.
One step is 1.5%.
yeah, that's what I was trying to remember.
Yep,
And we did 2 steps last year, right?
correct.
No,
Yeah, we did.
I get my ears.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Kevin that we might want to postpone this and think about this a little bit, because I think I also remember that we did 2 step increases, so I kind of want to think about this as well.
We need to propose a budget on May 7th, and so Heather, do you want to speak to this?
I mean, I guess I could make one quick comment too. We're not gonna be presented with any information that's different than what we have here today to consider. I think it's a question of
So the reason why this is coming for you, and again, I'm going back to, I believe we've done it, we've presented the COLA to you all separately for the last 2 budget cycles at the request of a previous budget cycle when you requested the board have impact and have opportunity to discuss and determine the COLA prior to it going to the budget committee. And so that is why it's on the agenda as a separate item for consideration. And because it is a, it does have an impact on the rest of the budget and how we can present you with a balanced budget. That is why we have it here. I don't know if either of us are prepared to answer whether we can tell you what we're considering for a step increase as well. I mean, if that's the other part of your question, we can, I think, tell you that.
Right, so since it's the biggest part of the budget, obviously, it's helpful to have this piece in place so that we can at least have that as a guideline and that the steps can be considered as a separate, function that you approve at the budget committee. Right now, I'm estimating with the COLA increase that's been presented and assuming a one step increase, just to give me some starting guidelines. And this did come up last year as well. I remember the same discussion where when this is proposed and it was decided that we do this prior to the budget committee meeting.
Well, one year there was a proposal for 2 steps and we only approved
Right.
1.
And that can happen in the budget.
I didn't know if that was, I can't remember whether that was last year.
It wasn't last year. Last year it was a COLA increase of 3.6% and 2 steps, so 6.6% total.
I don't remember the number dropping from 2 to 1.
I-
Did it happen 2 years ago?
Yes, the 2023-24 budget cycle, the COLA was 5% and the proposal was for a 2-step increase and what was approved was a 1-step increase. So the total increase in fiscal year 24 was 6.5%.
I requested, and I think we've got it coming, to look at the employee manual and the total, and we will look at compensation as part of that. I was sort of hoping we would get that in this year before we did this, but I didn't clearly ask soon enough, so we can't do that.
Well, I don't think we're gonna go to 0, so it's not, the effect on the budget would be $340,000 if we did, which we won't go to 0. So I think we can probably, if we can do it, and I prefer we go to put this in front of the budget committee. I can formally make a motion to take what you want.
I guess I would ask, is there some other information that either could be provided today? Or maybe some explanation of what might change in the process if this is deferred to discussing it.
Well, I think the purpose would be we'd see it as part of those 3-legged stool where you have the salary increase if there is one, you have the budget. The proposed step increase and then the proposed bonus. You can look at them all at once. That's my purpose. Table.
Is the COLA approved by the budget committee though? I thought that was a board.
That is my understanding, is that the amount of the COLA is a board-driven decision.
Right, the board has.
Which is why it would be nice to have a COLA percentage before the budget committee meets, because that is.
The board would approve it anyway. Yeah, I mean after the budget.
It's, again, I think really hard to build a budget with an unknown variable that large. And it's more of a market adjustment, it's more of an industry standard, it's more of saying, hey, are we following our methodology correctly to come up with these numbers? We're not gonna have additional information in the next, prior to the budget committee meeting. I mean, if you wait for the budget committee to determine, then you are not, as a board, approving the COLA amount, it's just being wrapped into the budget.
And I don't know if they can.
I think the board has to approve the COLA.
can they approve the budget if the COLA is not already in place?
That's what I'm not sure we can do.
Oh, it's what we did 2 years ago, right? We didn't start this procedure until 2 or 3 years ago. So we, it's something that was legal, then possible.
Well, I think
It's just
the
really hard
recommend,
for, it's hard for us to operate if the parameters move back and forth, with different budget cycles. So I think that's where our confused look at each other is coming from, is that we are following the process that was established in March of 2023. And there has been no discussion in the interim that there was to be a different process this year. And I don't know if we went back to the finance committee that when we discussed the budget process, we didn't discuss changing any components of it during that discussion.
well, and prior to this change, the COLA was in the budget. It was just, I mean, it just didn't come to the board prior to appearing in the budget. So it wasn't that somebody was not making a recommendation and that was not being integrated into the budget.
Correct.
It's just the consideration did not come to the board prior
Correct.
to the budget meeting, so it wasn't.
So you could produce the budget using this as an assumption, it probably is.
Right.
You've already done that most likely, right?
Right, this is what.
So we could change it at the budget committee, would be all.
What is why would the budget committee want to change the COLA amount if it is based on analysis and comparative data?
Because their opinion on the COLA or any of the other ways the school might change if they see the entire package. Meaning the salary increase, the budget, or the COLA and the step increase proposal. But it doesn't seem like a big deal, I don't know.
Well, with all of the moving pieces, I guess it's hard, so if you come back and change, so I don't know, say they only approve a 1.5% COLA, that does free up some space, but right now we're adjusting things to kind of try to get to that balanced number, so, I mean, it could free up space, but then where do we apply that? I mean, it'll be a kind of a
And my concern with looking at COLA as a what can we afford kind of piece is then we are no longer remaining market competitive, and our philosophy behind the COLA has changed from what we have defined as how we determine COLA. And I don't think that's a number that you can adjust in a way to make the budget balance. Marissa, do you have thoughts on this one?
I mean, one thing that I was thinking of, it'd be nice to kind of see the overall salary schedule so we could just get a better idea of where the wages are at, so we can talk about this competitiveness. I like the 3%, but I like it overall. So I mean, including the steps. So what I was kind of thinking, I was thinking more of like a 1.5% COLA adjustment.
I did pull previous years here to help show the COLA last year was 3.6, the year before was 5, the year before that was 3, and the year before that was 2. So I think a 1.5% COLA would be significantly below what the world is seeing right now. That would be
Right, and if you look at the comps in the table on page 21, the lowest COLA that any of our comps are pulling is a 2.4%. So.
Right, but it'd be nice to have just a salary comparison. And I think we've been pretty generous with the COLAs in the past to kind of keep up with inflation, but I don't know if data is really suggesting that we need to still be so aggressive.
That's what our comparable data is suggesting, is that a 3% COLA is what will help keep us competitive in the current job market.
and it's across the board, so everybody gets the same.
Well, it's all across the board.
Yeah.
Everybody gets the same. That's one of the reasons I want to look at the whole thing again.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to do that in time to have it affect this budget process.
So I'll make this simple. I'm gonna move the table until the budget committee meeting. Is there a second?
you want to call, you can, we have an active motion on the table, you can just call for that vote.
A motion to approve.
You already have a motion to approve the COLA as presented that Susan made and Vicky seconded.
Right, but I
But
put a motion to
he can,
table.
he can move to table. And if he doesn't get a second, then we can vote on the other.
Do we have a second for tabling?
I would second tabling. And with that, I would like a salary schedule, so again, we can compare like salaries and where we're at.
What do you mean by a salary schedule?
Or, you know, like how much people are making, what are we hiring at? Because that's also dictates whether we're competitive or not, right? The starting salary. Like I understand the COLA part, but I just kind of want an assessment of where we're at wages wise, you know, whether that's hourly or a yearly salary.
Well, it's a lot depending on the position. So you'd want that for all the positions?
Yeah, I mean, like there should be a rough, you know, what does a starting librarian position make? Like that sort of thing. That's all I'm asking for, general basic data like that.
Just,
Is that available on the
It is
website?
available, that is
Yeah.
our job as the director of the library and the HR manager to set those salaries and make them competitive, but I can provide that information.
So,
we have to vote on the
No.
motion to table.
yeah, right, that's where we're heading. Okay, so we have a motion to table consideration of the COLA increase to the budget hearing. All in favor? We have two. All opposed? And we have somebody absent.
I think if it ties, it fails. And I think that's gonna be the same for either motion.
So what's? the
Well, I think now we have
resolution?
to vote on the first motion.
Okay. So I guess we can repeat the motion that there was a motion to approve the 3% COLA as presented to the board. And we have a motion and a second, all in favor.
So that. Can we just make this easier? Can we do a roll call vote on this?
Okay.
Director Brown,
Yes.
Director Kiefer.
Yes.
Director Keating,
So I'm fine with moving for this now. We'll just discuss the salaries and steps later, so I'll vote yes.
and Director Shepherd.
I was gonna just abstain, honestly. I was a little confused and hope we could get more information.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Does she have those?
Yeah, you don't,
Unless there's a conflict,
Unless you have a
I
conflict.
couldn't abstain.
right,
unless there's a
Yeah.
conflict, you have to vote.
right. So it's a yes or no unless you can demonstrate some conflict with voting on this.
Then I'll just vote no.
Okay.
Can we still get the salary schedule?
Thank you. Thanks, Ed. Okay, on to committee reports. We have. I guess we can take them in order. Do you want to start on facilities or would you like me to start on facilities since we were both there? Kevin, whichever you prefer.
Facilities.
Yeah, I mean, I can start, you can start.
You go ahead and start and I'll fill in his color.
Okay. The facilities committee did meet on Monday and discuss a number of topics. First among them was the landscaping contract, which the contract with Pro Lawn took effect this month, and all of the reports seemed, at least that came up with the committee, seemed to be positive in terms of work that has already been performed and feedback from managers at the branches that their landscaping crews had come in, walked around their facilities, talked about things that were helpful. And I just happened to be at my branch when they were there, the landscaping crew was there, and the entire front lawn of the library has had leaves on it since last fall when the leaves had come down, and all of, I mean, there was a whole truckload of material that had been removed from the front lawn. It was mowed. Everything looked great and tidy, and so so far so good. It looks like it's all been good, and I know the Crystal went out to all of the branches with a representative of Pro Lawn to meet with the manager and kind of look at particular needs, since every branch's needs are very, very different. So of the 13 libraries that Pro Lawn is serving, right? Okay. I should have brought the agenda. Okay.
We did the capital projects discussion next.
Well, the agenda for the facilities, okay,
Right.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't recall that there was anything
Well, we discussed,
massive on capital projects other than.
we talked about
something
tech
deferred.
ed, some of that stuff, and then the pollinator comes up soon, but we're moving it out of this year's budget into next year's budget. And then talk about the patio project, but these are some new projects we put into 25-26 for a total of 972. And then the Phoenix pollinator garden project is, the bids came in undesirable, I guess I should say. And so we chose not to do it this year, and we'll move it to next year at the earliest and see if we can get some rebids from our preferred, well, not from our preferred, but from more people, I guess I should say.
And closer to budget.
Was that?
Closer to budget.
Yeah, there you go. Medford doors, that was a fun one. So the door project, Bill's Glass is promising to do that as per spec. So we'll get those pretty soon, I think.
And I'm assuming since the store was propped open today, these are still.
We're looking at 3
Leases are
weeks.
still not working, so.
I think she said they're looking at 3 or 4 weeks at most.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah, so hopefully by our next board meeting, all will be well.
And then the anything else in there? The Ashland, I went to the Ashland City Council meeting, and it was really exciting, talking about budget, and it was going so long, and they had about 40 people waiting to talk about the North Mountain Park issue. And Ty, after 2 hours, Ty goes, "There's no way we're gonna get to the ELA before they have to close." So it was a really nice experience.
Didn't get to comment.
Right.
So just for the benefit of the whole board, the Ashland City Council is considering an expansion of their ELEA, which is stands for their extended, I can't remember what it stands for, but it's basically the
Something
exclusion zone for
exclusionary.
to address nuisance behavior in the downtown area. And the proposed boundaries would include the front lawn and sidewalk of the library, as well as the business to the, I'm gonna get my directions confused, south of the library. And so the facilities committee met and staff have met to speak in favor of the expansion. So just recognizing that there may be other factors involved in the city council's consideration of the expansion, but from our perspective, it is one that we would support.
Yeah, and I think worth noting is that it came to the city council at the meeting prior to this meeting. but there wasn't really time to have much discussion. That's why it was brought back for more discussion. So I'm assuming at the next meeting, if they don't get bogged down with something else, we'll get discussed.
Sounds like a
I'm-
pattern.
Yeah, and it also includes the area, the sidewalk area has a covered bus shelter, which has been an area of concern in front of the library, at least from patrons, that it tends to be a gathering place, or a kind of a loitering location, so I think from that standpoint, it made sense for us to favor supporting what they're proposing. And I'll start on this, Kevin, you can add. The commissioning of a piece of stained glass art for the Ashland Library. At the Facilities Committee, we saw two, I guess, kind of sample ideas of potential art pieces that would be stained glass art that would be installed in the large window areas come in, I guess, kind of, to me, the back door of the library, but I don't have a good orientation in that building. I haven't been through there enough times to have a good sense of it, but
The breezeway between the old and the new part of the library.
Up the stairs facing the mountains.
right. One, again, cost of the consideration, although it is expected that some restricted funds would be utilized to pay for this art installation. One of the installations was much smaller and more modest. One was much larger and expansive. One, I don't know how much detail you want here. One would preserve part of the existing window as a clear window, and panels would be placed on either side of that. The other, all of the panels would cover that entire window space. So
If it's feasible, because
I mean,
we have
Will the board get to vote on this?
So we will be bringing a proposal to the board in May.
Right.
Yeah, so since the meeting was on Monday, we didn't have
Right.
time to bring a
Right.
proposal, but that will be coming from the facilities committee at the May meeting. So we can go into more detail at that time.
If somebody could, since we have all sorts of techies, could somebody Photoshop a picture so that we can see what these two possible things would look like installed?
So because
one of them
they're,
you have.
right, well, so the consideration there is that this is a project that would have to go out to bid. And so we can't share in a public forum the sample designs because it is would be a competitive process.
So we can't even see them?
Correct.
Oh, that's,
Could you well,
You can come visit my office and show them to you, but we can't present them at a public meeting.
I mean, something could probably be prepared that showed what putting
Where-
something,
But, right.
if we come to your office, isn't that
panels.
similar to a sequential meeting?
This is where these things get tricky. And again, it's public procurement of art in the library, and because they are not necessarily the designs that would be chosen, and we do need to open it up as a competitive project process, it is not fair to the artists to have the samples out there, and other people be like, oh, I can.
yeah, that does make sense. Someone else could do something
Similar.
similar to it.
And it's public contracting law that they have to be private and sealed until they're made public.
Marissa, did you have a question or comment?
Sorry, so, just trying to follow, so does that mean we could look at the samples of the designs in your office, Carrie, then?
It sounds like no, even that's not what I said, I'm not sure.
Maybe if it was one at a time and there was a discussion about it, you just like looked at it, I think that wouldn't be a sequential meeting.
Sounds
All right, we could look. All right.
Yeah, like if one at a time when you came and looked but didn't say anything and then
I don't,
moved along, I think.
I don't want to be charged with voting for something without being able to know what it is that I'm voting for.
Right, and you're voting for the concept of A or B, not for that
This
particular piece of artwork.
part.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of work at facilities committee.
Well, it's about time.
Okay, the policy committee.
You've already benefited
That's
from our
right,
work.
that's right. Okay.
We've got,
I do have a
we've
question
got
on
more
that.
policies coming next month.
Can we get an updated calendar on what's gonna be done when? Yes, still waiting on a couple.
I will bring that to the next policy committee meeting.
Oh, that's 2
So,
months.
okay.
What? We're
That's
meeting
too
next
much.
month.
April
No, we're
28th.
meeting in like 2 weeks.
April
Oh.
28th, I believe.
Yeah.
That'd be great, thanks.
Yep, we'll do that.
I was just looking at this, it said July, but that's the.
And the last report is the personnel committee. And just as a reminder, the board members on the personnel committee are myself and Marta, who's not with us today, so.
And I think I'm listed by mistake in one box of that,
Oh, okay,
where Marta should be
okay.
instead of me.
Up on the-
I went, I don't think I'm on that committee anymore, and I don't want to be in that box.
Okay, so there was a timeline, which I know there was at least one correction on there, but again, Erin did her best to make this available to you, even though we couldn't alter the dates in there. The committee has been working ongoing for since last month, and Marta and I and Carrie did meet with our consultant, Maura Dee, on April 11th and review the tool. And the tool, which includes Carrie's goals and the elements from her job description that the evaluation will be performed on, and worked on revisions to that we chose to have completed. And since Marta is new to this, I sense the format will be very, very similar to last year. Obviously, the goals have changed, and we've tried to take some of the input that came from last year and trying to make the document provide information that is as useful as it possibly could be to all of us. So the next step will be on May 6th. All of the board members and all of the managers who report directly to Carrie, which will be a total of 6 people at this point, right? We'll be meeting virtually with Maura to go over the evaluation document and keys. I can't remember what you call
Just
it, the supporting.
A correction on that one. If the
Okay.
board members would be able to be present physically, there will be an executive session for the review of my self-evaluation. That's one of those things where you can't get the things ahead of time, you can't take the document out of the room. So there will be a brief, or as long as you need executive session for you to review my self-evaluation at that May 6th meeting.
Right, it was more is gonna be virtual. Correct. Since she's in New Jersey. Yeah, I would expect we would be present and that we would have a room that would accommodate the whole group if everybody's available to be present at the same time. So, and again, Maura will be prepared with the information that we need at that time. And the evaluation subsequently will be, as last year, it will be sent to those of us who will be completing the evaluation online. And that information, there will be a period of time to allow you to complete that and get it back to Maura. And she will collate that information. There will be an additional meeting with the personnel committee, which will be just Marta and I and Maura reviewing the draft evaluation, and then the final evaluation will come to the board in an executive session at the June meeting following the regular board meeting. So that's kind of the outline of what's going on at this point. And I think all of us are happy with Maura's work and flexibility. She's in the Eastern time zone. She's attending meetings well into the evening for us, and she's very responsive. And knowledgeable. I mean, she's worked as a library director. She's currently a trustee on her own library district board. So she has very relevant experience to be helping us with this. So, any questions on the process or? Did you have anything to add, Theory, to that? Okay. Yeah, again, all of our meetings with Maura, she will be virtual. And most of the rest of them, we will be in person. So there are some meetings and other things upcoming. I think 3 of the board members and Carrie and some staff will be at OLA in Eugene next week. And it looks like it might be a nicer weather than it has been at times for this conference in the past. So hopefully people that are going enjoy that and get some good information. May 6th, again, we just went over that, 4 p.m. library director evaluation process meeting. May 7th, the budget committee meeting that I assume will be in this room.
I believe so. And I was just confirming that we do have that scheduled to start at 3:45 at Kevin's request.
So the budget committee
Yeah.
meeting?
It says
Oh,
4, but 3:45.
Oh, because another meeting following it. Like
Just to give us more time. Just in case.
Okay.
And I think,
Earlier.
if I'm remembering correctly, I think Marta needed to leave at a earlier time too, so that gives us a little more time with her presence. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess we won't know until the day of that meeting how many people are going to be able to be here physically or. Okay. Just.
I don't know where I'm gonna be in 3 weeks, let alone tomorrow, so. But by then we will know whether people are here or virtual.
Okay, and was it May 14th or is it 15th? I know I just responded to this
It's
last night. but
14th.
I thought it was the
It's
14th.
week following.
Okay,
Sorry, apologies.
yeah,
And that would also be at 3:45.
that would be a second budget meeting if required. And everybody should have gotten this calendar survey on that yesterday, I believe. And May 21st will be the May regular board meeting. Whatever business we have to do at that meeting, we'll be doing.
Day after the election. Right, 20th is the election, so, yep.
So we should have some news.
Unofficial.
Right. And yes, and a reminder that May 20th is actually the election day, and we do have 2 board seats that will be on the ballot. So, any final thoughts? Thanks everybody for being here, and thanks audience, people sitting through the meeting. Meeting is adjourned.